Joining us now, Curtis Ellis, Senior Policy Advisor with America First Policies, the president's one and only sanctioned political action committee, his PAC, also America First Action. Curtis, great to have you with us.
Hey, it's great to be here with you, John. Back from the wall. Welcome back. I'm glad they didn't throw you over the other side of the wall.
I know, Curtis, and when I was there,
get back with that wall.
You got to see it, Curtis. The next time we go there, I'm going to drag you to the event because you have to see it with your own eyes. You know, we can talk about it and we can see pictures, but you have to see it. It's real and it can be done. And what they've done there, and they're doing it for $6.5 million for a half a mile, which is like I think they said 1/3 of what the federal government is paying for it, and it's better. And it's stopped.
So that's 1.2 million per mile, right?
No, $6.5 million.
$600,000 per half mile.
Per half mile. So 1 mile would
be 1.2 million.
13 million.
So the president just got the Supreme Court to say he can spend $2.5 billion on the wall. He can reappropriate money from the military budget and use it to build the wall. Well, that'll build over 1,000. That'll build 2,000 miles of wall.
I'll tell you though,
well over 1,000 miles of wall with that money. Let's hope they do some smart shopping, price comparison.
When you're there,
when they go spending that $2.5 billion, don't go to the Army Corps of Engineers and just hand them all your money.
Right, exactly.
Go do some comparison shopping.
Right.
Go to Go to the Walmart, WALL Mart, and get the best price on that wall. That's all I can say.
Well, the company they have doing it has done a great job, but it can be done. And you know, when you sit there and you talk to the Border Patrol agents who are there, like that's their territory. And they tell you that there were 1,000 crossings a month, and now there's 0. And then you hear the Democrats tell you, "Oh, well, you know, wall's outdated. It's medieval. You need technology. You need drones." Well, that doesn't stop anybody from coming in. All that does is say these are 10 people that came in. It doesn't stop them from coming. That's the absurdity.
I think if the Democrats don't want to stop people from coming in, they need new voters.
That's the whole thing.
Today they say, "Oh, we can't stop people from coming in. We got to welcome them all. It's all humane and humanity, and we can't detain them. We got to let them go, resettle them in the country somewhere." The minute they take power, the first thing they're going to say is, "Oh, we got to legalize them." And then 6 months later, they're all going to be voting, and then it'll be over. The Democrats will get elected forever and ever. It'll be a one-party state, and you will have democratic socialism democratically achieved through elections. And that's their goal. That's the game.
Well, we played a clip by Bernie Sanders earlier talking about immigration reform. And he said, well, the first thing we have to do is legalize the 13 million people that are undocumented now. That's the first thing we have to do legalize them and make them citizens. That's number one. Sure, because that's 13 million votes, right?
Exactly.
And then
they're in Texas and they're in Florida.
Right.
Once they turn Texas blue,
it's over.
It's over.
Yeah, it's over.
Republicans can't win.
Right.
Period.
Impossible. Yep. I mean, they turn
that simple.
Texas or Florida, it's over. But especially Texas. I mean, it's over. They can't win. And so that's what they're aiming to do. That's why Beto is advertising on Facebook in Mexico.
Right. And so right now they're saying we got to legalize them. We got to give them a path to citizenship. And the path's going to be a very short path. Democrats take control, be a very short path. 6 months. 6 months from you're legal to you're voting. Actually, it'll probably be about 6 days because that's how long it takes to mail them a ballot. But I want to say one thing real quick about your last guest with this Citizen for Responsible Solar. I think she's really onto something here. Solar. I was out in California with the vice president a couple of weeks ago, out in the San Joaquin Valley, best farmland in the world. 4 growing seasons, sunshine, 300 days of sunshine a year. They've got water. They've got great soil, and the environmentalists are taking the water away, diverting the water to water lawns in Los Angeles or feed fish in the Sacramento Delta or something. And they're taking these dry fields where they used to grow food for people and turning them into solar farms, solar solar farms really is a misnomer. These are industrial projects. You've got vast fields just filled up with glass panels, solar panels. It looks terrible. And what they do is they ship the energy via power lines somewhere else. So they're taking good farmland out of production so they can generate electricity to power the electric cars of the future or power the strip malls in Los Angeles, or in this case, as she's saying, they're going to ship the power to the Northeast. So New Jersey can have electricity, but Virginia won't have any more farmland. It's really, these are industrial projects. This is industry. And I think the gripe should be that you should not be able to use agriculture-zoned land for industrial purposes. That's the fallacy. But the environmentalists have said, oh, no, solar's good, and we're going to give special treatment for solar, and we're going to turn your agriculture rural land into industrial facilities for the Northeast. And where are we supposed to get our food from? Oh, from China. That's the master plan. Get the food from somewhere else. And it's really and it's also a misuse of the technology. The whole point of solar and renewables is to have distributed generation. As she was saying, rooftop solar. Nothing wrong with rooftop solar. Let's take those roofs, take the roof of Walmart, take a roof of anything, and cover that with solar panels and have basically 1,000 million, 10,000, 100,000 little solar generating stations all over the place. Not one big one. That's the old model of like one big coal power plant that's going to supply the energy to everything. No, the whole idea is like one big computer downtown, and we're all going to tap into that one big computer, and it's going to store our phone book and our apps. No, that's not the way it works. We all carry little computers around in our pocket. Everybody's going to have a little electricity generating station on their roof. That's the way this technology is meant to work. So these German companies coming in and covering thousands of acres with solar panels is really a misuse of the technology, and she has every reason to be upset. Okay, I'm done with that. Let's go on to the other stuff.
You should be their spokesperson because you summed her argument up in 120 seconds. It took her 28 minutes, and I still didn't get what she was saying.
She never got there.
She never got there. I mean, this is, and I just want for our listeners to understand the power of effective communication. Curtis Ellis, who heard the end of her segment, she was on for 25 minutes, bless her heart, nice lady. But she never got there. I never understood what she was saying, and so therefore we had the debate. Curtis Ellis got the last 5 minutes of it and summed it up in 90 seconds. This is land that is zoned agricultural, and it's zoned agricultural for a reason, to grow things on it. So what you're saying is the German company comes in and saying, well, we're going to do a solar farm, which is zoning it for agricultural, but it's not. It's an industrial development. And so if a industry was coming there, if a manufacturing plant was coming there, they couldn't go on the land because it's zoned for agricultural. She couldn't get there in a half hour.
Yeah.
That's the argument.
Meanwhile, Mnuchin and Lighthizer are getting to China.
So let's talk about that. I mean, the president said something yesterday that was very comforting to me. He said, yeah, they're going there. I don't know how it's going to work out, but I'm kind of happy with the tariffs now. Billions of dollars are coming in, and likely I'm not going to get anything done until I get reelected because they're going to try to wait it out. They can get Joe Biden in. He'll play ball with them, and everything will go back to the way it was. I mean, that's what the president said yesterday. True or false?
True, very true. The tariffs are working the way they're supposed to. There is a story, I'm writing about this, a story in the South China Morning Post. 50 major companies have moved or have plans to move out of China, including Apple, by the way, those idiots are putting assembly back in for something. We'll see how that works out. But Sharp, Nintendo, Samsung, other big companies moving right out of China. The CEO of the Sharp company says that we're never sure what's going to happen. We need long-term certainty that there aren't going to be tariffs on China. Tariffs on our goods. And we also want to be able to sell our goods to the U.S. government. And we can't do that as long as we're in China. So we're moving out. So that's happening exactly as planned, as the president planned when he put these tariffs in. You've got no inflation. I don't care what these idiot economists are. They're too busy looking at textbooks rather than looking at what's happening in the real world. Keep saying, "Oh, consumer prices are going to go up." Consumer prices are not going up. Newsflash: they're not going up. The government tracks these things twice a month. They put out numbers. China is eating the cost of the tariffs. China is losing companies. They're moving overseas, moving out of China. And so it's working exactly as planned. And we are getting billions of dollars from the tariffs into the Treasury, which is then being used to help the farmers that China is targeting. And we don't need a deal. China needs a deal. Their banks are starting to collapse. They've pulled back on their investments overseas. This Belt and Road Initiative, which is they're going to buy military facilities around the world. They're running out of money for that, and they've got big problems in Hong Kong. So it's and now Marco Rubio has introduced legislation to take Chinese companies off the U.S. stock exchange because we can't even look at these companies' books. It's rife for fraud. It's
right.
a setup to get ripped off. So China's in a bad spot. They need a deal. We don't. Meanwhile, you've got the Wall Street. They keep saying, Wall Street Journal editorial, "Oh, we got to get rid of the tariffs right away. Got to get rid of these tariffs. Got to get rid of these tariffs." Wall Street's making billions of dollars
right.
by investing in China. They're making billions of dollars. There are huge index funds, exchange-traded funds that are invested up to their eyeballs in China every time. And by the way, the California State Teachers Union pension fund is invested in these funds.
Right.
The New York State teachers are in pension funds invested in these Chinese funds. It's crazy. Wall Street's making a killing. That's why they keep saying, "Oh, we got to get rid of the tariffs. We got to get rid of the tariffs." Yeah, because if we expose the fraud going on in China, Wall Street might lose money. And you see the stories in the New York Times and the Washington Post saying China is not our enemy. These companies, these newspapers and media outlets are being played by the Chinese propaganda machine in Beijing, and I think they don't even know it. They don't even know they're being played.
The Wall Street Journal is the chief propagandist for the gangster bankers and Wall Street greed. All these editorials they have are pre-written before anything happens. They just hit a button. So the journalism there is to protect Wall Street profits. And you're right, they're up to their eyeballs in China nonsense with everything that's going on. We're with Curtis Ellis. Curtis is Senior Policy Advisor for America First Policies, the only sanctioned political action committee for the re-election of President Trump and America First Action. Curtis, let's get to Elijah Cummings, the president attacking him yesterday for the policies, the Democratic policies that has led to the disaster going on in West Baltimore, part of his district. 2016, Bernie Sanders went there and said it was like walking through a third world country. Nobody called Bernie Sanders a racist. Every time the president attacks the policies of a politician who happens to be a person of color, he's called a racist. Well, what about the attacks he did on Ted Cruz, Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, etc.? What about all that? What about the attacks he's done on Schumer, on Adam Schiff, etc.? I mean, isn't this getting old?
It's getting very old. It's absolutely ridiculous. The conclusion that we can draw from what the media is saying, Trump's racist tweets, Trump attacking Cummings is racist, is that you cannot criticize a person of color. You cannot criticize a congressman or a politician who happens to have skin of a different color than white. Otherwise, you're racist. And by the way, that happens to be what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says. She called Nancy Pelosi a racist. She all but called her a racist for singling out 3 newly elected women of color. What? Suddenly, this becomes a shield that you cannot criticize someone because of the color of their skin? I mean, what if you played it the other way? I'm sorry, you can't criticize white man. You can't criticize overseer because he's white. I mean it's just as ridiculous. If you said that, no, you can't criticize boss man because he's white. you'd say, well, that's like the embodiment of white supremacy and racism. But going the other way, it's now gospel for the Washington Post, the New York Times, MSNBC, CNN. These people are absolutely Looney Tunes. These media people are Looney Tunes. And I'll tell you what, the politicians are too.
Mm-hmm.
The Democrats have controlled these cities, Baltimore, Philadelphia, St. Louis, for longer than Stalin was in power. They have controlled these cities, and they are absolutely responsible for the mess that's there. You can't deny it. And finally, Donald Trump is pointing it out. Just like he's exposed every other falsehood, every other mendacity in our political system ever since he came down that escalator, what he has done is he has unmasked the mendacity and the hypocrisy in our political system. And now he's doing it again, and they have nothing, the Democrats have nothing to say about it, no defense, so they say racism, racism, racism. It's disgusting.
Yeah, because they can't defend any of the policies, and they can't defend their cities. And here's the other hypocrisy. Over the weekend, Tulsi Gabbard, this is what she said of Kamala Harris. She said, Kamala Harris is not qualified to be president because she has no background or experience in foreign policy, and she lacks the temperament that is necessary for commander-in-chief. Direct quote, Tulsi Gabbard on Kamala Harris. Where's the charges of racism?
Yeah, I guess she's racist too.
Not a peep out of them. The hypocrisy is beyond the pale. Curtis Ellis got to roll. John Fredericks Radio Network. Stay with us.